So here we have the OSHA Bloodborne Pathogen Standard. And with that, this requires that our employees have what's called an exposure control plan. With this exposure control plan, they need to have emergency procedures put into play. If in fact there was an exposure, a needle stick exposure, a bloodborne pathogen exposure, it needs to be documented into a log. What you would never want to do is ignore an injury that occurred at work. If you did in fact come in contact with a contaminated needle, the very first thing you want to do is protect yourself. You would wash your site. The next thing you're going to do is you're going to notify your supervisor immediately. There is an emergency protocol that is put into place for your safety and your protection, and all workplace incidents are then logged into a particular incident report book. That book is in place so that employers can keep track of all the injuries that are occurring or incidents that are occurring within their facility and evaluate their employee training as need be. Now, remember, we do have the Center for Disease Control that does regulate that we have the ability to receive the hepatitis B vaccine. That's done at your employer's cost. It's no cost to you, but it does protect you. In fact, if you were to come in contact with a bloodborne pathogen or hepatitis B, you would have already been vaccinated. We also have the Needle Stick Safety and Prevention Act, which is an act that's put into place with the engineering devices to ensure that we as employees have access to needles that have engineering safety devices put in place for our usage. This here is an example, another example of a needle stick safety engineered device. And what happens here with this particular needle is once the needle is used, this would be a dirty needle. You can take your finger here and you push down on what is the cover of the needle and it locks into place. Once this locks into place, it is then covered, the top portion of the needle, and you are no longer at risk for sticking yourself with a contaminated needle. So we do have employee recommendations here through OSHA. And of course, we're going to avoid using needles without safety devices. It is important to utilize needles that do have those engineering devices put into place. They're for your benefit. Remember, we never recap needles. We always dispose of our sharps correctly in the sharps container. Any injuries that happen, any hazards that you notice, you want to report them as soon as possible. And then, of course, if there's any training that's being offered, make sure that you're participating in that as well.